want to welcome you all to the Manatee Tiger Bay Luncheon today. I am your moderator and president, Xtavia Bailey. We will have our Pledge of Allegiance. Please welcome our Sarasota Military Academy student, Cadet Major Claybrook.
Yep. Please rise and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Please give him another round of applause. Thank you so much, Cadet Claybrook. I appreciate you. Also, I want to make sure that if we have any military or veterans, would you please stand? And also, if we have any dignitaries in the room, would you please stand? If you are a candidate running for office, stand. I'm just going to get you all at one time. Just stand. Thank you so much. I try to be really fair about that. Okay, please silence your cell phones. No rock, no R&B, none of that while we're speaking. I appreciate it. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about inflation, congestion, and crime. Manatee County is Manatee County capable of handling the impacts of inflation, demands for rapid urbanization in our community, and while promising to protect and serve. Now, we usually do a law enforcement update, so I decided to bring it in the middle because we do have for our next month's meeting is Congressman Buchanan. He will be giving a legislative update, and it's almost like a luncheon with the congressman. You'll be able to also ask questions, what you agree with, what you don't agree with, but save it for the questions. Okay, so our first speaker is going to be Ed Brodsky, attorney, 12th State Attorney, 12th Judicial Circuit Court. Ed Brodsky is a career-long prosecutor, having served with the State Attorney's Office for 29 years. After completing rotation in the misdemeanor, juvenile, and felony divisions, Mr. Brodsky served in the Child Sex Crimes Unit prosecuting offenders who preyed on our children under 12. He then served as a felony division chief, then as a chief assistant over Manatee County, and then chief assistant over all 3 counties in the 12th Judicial Circuit. Ed became state attorney and was sworn into office in January 2013 and is currently in his 3rd term as the state attorney. Ed serves on the State Advisory Group on the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency after his appointment by then Governor Rick Scott. He also serves as the president of the Florida Prosecuting Attorneys Association and as state director, Florida with the National District Attorneys Association. He also serves as an adjunct professor for the University of South Florida, Sarasota, Manatee. Ed has obtained his undergraduate degree in criminology from the University of South Florida and his law degree from Nova University Law School in Fort Lauderdale. He is married with his beautiful wife, Kim, and their 2 children. Please welcome Ed Brodsky.
Well, thank you, Xavier, and thank you, everyone at Manatee Tiger Bay. It's really nice to be here. Beautiful day, and it's a pleasure to be with you and to talk to you a little bit. I was asked to talk a little bit about our topic today, which is inflation, congestion, and crime. So we'll try to weave that in with what we do at the State Attorney's Office. So I'll begin just briefly, since my remarks are supposed to be rather brief. I want to thank Manatee County Commissioners and Dr. Hopes. One of the things that they have indicated that they were going to prioritize in the next coming year is affordable housing. Obviously, we are all feeling inflation, but certainly our assistant state attorneys and our staff at the state attorney's office feel this inflation, and affordable housing has been the biggest issue that I think is affecting each and every one of us, a lot of us that have new businesses, folks that you're hiring from colleges and law schools, in which we do. We hire a lot of young assistant state attorneys from law school. And affordable housing, it really needs to be a top priority. I also, this past session, which just wrapped up at the Florida legislature, on behalf of state employees, we're a state agency, and dealing with inflation, I think it was a real issue and a real concern for the Florida legislature. So I give my thanks to the governor, Governor DeSantis, and the Florida legislature, Speaker Sprouse, and Senate President Wilton Simpson for their recognition for helping state prosecutors and state employees with a cost of living raise and some additional dollars. If you looked at the median salary for state prosecutors in Florida and you compared that to prosecutors around the nation, unfortunately, we're one of the lowest paid prosecutor positions around the nation. So that was something that we took to the legislature, and they worked to address that this year. And additionally, you drive through a lot of places, and you're seeing that, you can go through a drive-through restaurant or a lot of the local businesses, and you see that a lot of businesses are now starting to hire employees at, $16, $17, $18, even $19 an hour, which was a real challenge for us with our staff. So the Florida legislature, again, addressed that issue, and this year, and this will be in July, they're raising our staff salaries to a minimum salary of $15 an hour. So we're grateful for those issues. Your prosecutors here in Manatee County, I think, play a very vital role, and it's important that we do everything that we can through affordable housing and some of these initiatives to raise salaries so that we're competitive in Florida and around the nation with our private sector partners that recruit our prosecutors. And so it's important that we retain good prosecutors. And I'm sure that law enforcement and our victims deserve to have very seasoned and experienced prosecutors in the courtroom trying the very serious cases that come before them. So I'll talk a little bit about population and congestion. It's no secret that certainly Manatee County and our region is kind of a top destination around the country, right? And time again, we're reading in national newspapers and magazines that this is now becoming one of the top destinations for people to live and to retire in. So I think it's an amazing place. The University of Florida Bureau of Economic and Business Research said that in April of last year, we had 411,000 folks living in Manatee County. Now, over the next 8 years, by the end of the decade, we're going to have about 481,900 people that are going to be living here, an increase of 70,000 people. By 2050, we'll have increased the population here in Manatee County by about 160,000 folks. I live in Manatee County. This is where I've been a career prosecutor here in Manatee County. And I can tell you, I think all of you have seen the congestion and the growth and the development that's occurring here. Everyone knows it's no longer a secret how great Manatee County is. And so that is going to have an impact on all of us. It's going to have an impact on criminal justice. It's going to have an impact on our jail. And it's going to have an impact on our courts. And what prosecution looked like when I started 30 years ago now versus today, now every business that you go to, almost every home that you go to has some form of video surveillance. Technology has dramatically changed the landscape of what police investigations look like and the prosecution of cases look like. And home surveillance is a big part of it. So certainly that's something that we expect and we look for. Now a lot of the agencies here in our jurisdiction have begun using body cameras, which have been a dramatic improvement and have really strengthened our cases, and I think have been wonderful. Cell phone records, the admissibility of cell phone records, people don't realize, but cell phones have a wealth of information on them. They provide cell phone tower locations, things like that help law enforcement and prosecutors prove cases. In addition to the plethora of scientific, forensic, and medical evidence that prosecutors have to present. Over the last number of years, the prison population in Florida has dropped. We used to average about 100,000 people in prison. Today, we have about 80,000 folks that are in our prison in the Florida Department of Corrections. And I think that the reason that you see that is every year, year after year, Florida's experienced a drop in crime. But secondarily, I think that the reason that we're seeing that is law enforcement is being much more driven by intelligence-led models and how they're going to go after chronic and career offenders. And I think we're also being very driven on making sure that when people enter the criminal justice system, we're addressing the reason that they come into the criminal justice system. And simply incarcerating someone and not doing anything to try to treat the underlying reason that they're there, it doesn't do anything to prevent them from coming back into the system. So one of the things that you see here in Manatee County is very strong treatment programs to address drug addiction, to address mental health addiction, to address the homeless population, to address our veteran population. Those are all strong initiatives that we've implemented here to make a difference. But we continue to see during the pandemic, before the pandemic, and I guarantee you it's going to continue to remain here in our community after the pandemic, and that's the prevalence of drug use and mental illness in the criminal justice system. Those are the two factors that we strongly see as factors of folks that are committing crime in our community. And we saw that during the pandemic, drug overdoses continued to remain strong. In 2020, we had 286 individuals that died due to drug overdoses. But nonetheless, even though there was a pandemic and there was worries about COVID, law enforcement throughout the county remained very vigilant in their enforcement of traffic offenses. In our office, we received almost 900 cases for DUIs. We received 265 cases for people leaving the scene of an accident, which to me is a epidemic problem, not only in our region but across the state, are people that leave the scenes of accidents. We have pedestrians, we have motorcyclists, bicyclists, people involved in accidents, and unfortunately we have way too many people that are leaving the scenes of accidents. We also have way too many people that are driving that don't have a driver's license. And when they don't have a driver's license, we find that they also don't have motor vehicle insurance. So when they get in an accident, you don't have insurance on their part to fall back on. And so there we have probably over 2,500 individuals in Manatee County alone that were either stopped for not having a valid driver's license or having an expired driver's license. Is that? Go ahead, finish up. Okay. That's kind of the kind bell. So I'm going to wrap up real quick. So this is kind of my plea to you to help us, help law enforcement, and help prosecutors reduce crime. We continue to see crime being reduced. I think that law enforcement's been working very, very strongly with our prosecutors to reduce crime. But if you see something, say something. I would urge you to, if you want to report a crime anonymously, use Crime Stoppers, the Florida Crime Stoppers app on your phone. You can also dial ** tips to report any suspicious behavior, but it's important that we all stay vigilant together in order to do that. Here, I'm just going to end on this fact. On crimegrade.org, they reported that your home is 300% more likely to be burglarized with no home security system. The one time, and I've lived here my whole time, and this happened in Manatee County, and the one time I had someone try to break into my home, I had a security alarm system that went off. And I always was so grateful to the fact that my alarm system went off, because my home would have been burglarized, and I'm sure it would have been probably vandalized, because there was some burglaries that were occurring with some damage to the homes at that particular time. So I'm very grateful for that. But Manatee County, according to crimegrade.org, receives an A- for its rate of crime, and it places Manatee County in the 80th percentile for safety, which I think is outstanding. So just in conclusion, I do want to take a second to thank the men and women of the State Attorney's Office for their commitment to public safety and our partnership with our law enforcement agencies, the sheriff here and the chief and the other agencies that we work with. So thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Ed. Those are some great statistics that he has given, and that may be a reason why we have so many people moving to our area, along that it is a beautiful place to live. Please give him another round of applause, please. Thank you, Ed. Next, we will have Dr. Hopes, the Manatee County Administrator. Dr. Hopes was appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. County Administrator Dr. Hopes is responsible for carrying out the policies and directives of the commission and for development and management of the county's annual operating and capital improvement budgets. Dr. Scott Hopes is an experienced international chief executive officer, educator, extraordinary leader in government, education, and healthcare, experienced chief operating office, public and private board chairs, and board member leadership. His elected official and successful entrepreneur with a demonstrated history of leadership, working in healthcare, higher education, K through 12 education, local and state and national and international governments, and Fortune 500 companies. So we are really, really blessed to have someone leading our county. Please welcome Dr. Scott Hopes, our county administrator for Manatee County.
Thank you. This is kind of a special day for me. Today completes my first year as county administrator. And tomorrow on April Fool's Day, I begin year number 2. So, and you all know what happened a year ago tomorrow. It was quite the exciting indoctrination to getting to know my staff right away. Very broad topics today. So I'll start off and see if I can touch on each one. Inflation rates, just to kind of refresh your memory, in 2015, the inflation rate was 0.7%. It went up to 2.3% in 2019. Then it went down, it dropped by 1.4% in 2020. Then in 2021, it went up 7%. And in 2022 so far, it's up 7.9%. So you can expect it to exceed 8% by the end of this year. Half of all families renting in the Suncoast area, including Manatee and Sarasota counties, is now considered rent burdened, or paying more than 30% of their monthly income in rent, according to the new data by the United Way Suncoast. Rents have increased an average of 24%. In September, it was around $1,600 a month, and it's now currently $2,000 a month and rising. I spoke to the new CEO at Manatee Memorial, and he told me that the problem he's having with nurses is like the apartment rents just right around here are pushing like $2,700. And so fuel prices, anybody bought gas lately? How much do you think, you know how much gasoline is, how much do you think I paid a gallon for aviation fuel at the Sarasota airport on Sunday? $8.74. Now, in all fairness, I did a landing in Wauchula, and I should have checked the fuel prices first. Although I like my friends, because Wauchula has it self-serve for $4.74, which I don't know how they're doing that, but at any rate. Consumer confidence is falling. So is buying. Inflation-adjusted earnings dropped 2.6% compared to this time last year. That means the typical worker has less buying power now than a year ago. And that's significant because the trends are not looking like it's going to get any better anytime soon. As you heard earlier, Manatee County added about 25,000 new residents in the past 3 years, and that's probably an undercount. The overall growth rate is approaching 33%. The school district plans to add space for 4,810 students over the next 5 years. They've accelerated their capital plan and are actually pushing new schools out in the next couple of years that they weren't planning on for at least 5 years. Adding 498 slots for elementary, 2,062 middle school slots, and just built, while I was chair, we built a brand new high school.
They now have to add 750 student stations for high school just to keep up with the growth. So what we're not just seeing growth, in the semi-retirement age. Because of COVID, I believe, and because our schools were open and our economy was open, what happened is young families moved here. They brought school children that nobody really expected. And so that's why you're going to see a massive investment. You have new schools in Lakewood Ranch that are under construction now. If any of you live in that area, that charter school, I went up and visited the school they built in Pasco because they said they built it in 6 months. Any of you that go by that site in the core at Lakewood Ranch, they're building that lower school in a 6-month period of time. And it's like the walls went up overnight. That campus is going to have all the way through high school with football stadium and everything. And they are working on an early development center. So you'll be able to put a child in that system at 2 months of age all the way through high school, and they'll have the opportunity to do 2 years of college while they're in high school in there. And even though Lakewood Ranch High School is adding student stations, they need that new school to take the pressure off. So the growth is really upon us, and it doesn't look like it's going to slow down. So what is Manatee County doing? As you may have read in the paper, now that I've gotten my feet wet for the first year, we're moving forward with a redesign of Manatee County government. Those of you that may be aware, when the economy sort of tanked, 300 people were laid off, departments were consolidated. The problem is when the economy came back and we experienced all this growth, there was no reorganization of Manatee County government. And that was a problem. One of the areas is getting into the focus on affordable housing. Community development is now reporting directly to the administrator's office. And with that, we're providing a pretty broad array of a variety of programs. And Manatee County is offering various incentives for affordable housing designated projects. I thought I saw Commissioner Cruz. Commissioner Cruz has been designated by the board as the lead around affordable housing, and he brings incredible financier experience to it and an understanding of cost. So we've got some pretty incredible things that we're pushing forward with his leadership. But we have a rapid response team that can fast track affordable housing projects, fee refunds, fee increments, density bonuses, expedited permitting, and other incentives. And with Commissioner Cruz's leadership, we're going to do something that government doesn't normally do. We're going to begin land banking to ensure that certain things are built in communities. For example, you'll hear soon that I expect a draft purchase agreement on the acquisition of 220 acres in Parish at Moccasin Wallow and 301. Why is that important? Because the ROI on building single-family homes is so high that if we don't look at ensuring that you have something else out in Parish other than houses, it's going to be a bedroom community with no restaurants, no shops, no parks, no town squares. It would all be houses. And so with that, we'll be able to add additional park space. We'll be able to ensure that there is attainable workforce housing in the area. And so I'm really looking forward to some of the things that the commission comes up with around that. And the sheriff, we'll talk about crime. The sheriff has I think it was a $20 million project for, I call it his bunker. But we're going to go to the board and ask for another $5 million. And the plan is to put that out in Parish. So he'll have a hurricane-hardened facility for the sheriff's department, given I think he lives out there because we usually have breakfast on this side of town. It'll probably be his main office, so that the community of Parish that's growing like, crazy will have other services, a tax collector office to go to and things like that. So, that's really a different approach. We issued our first ITN a couple of weeks ago. it's a different way of contracting for affordable housing to make county-owned land available to both for-profit developers and nonprofit developers. Why do I believe an ITN is the way to go? Because an ITN is a state procurement process which allows you the flexibility to look at innovation and creativity and negotiate with one or more proposers to determine what is going to contribute the most value and benefit to the community. So I'm excited to see the outcome of that. The Emergency Rental Assistance Program, get the word out. We've almost spent all of the first ERA. We got the second ERA coming, so we've got about $12 million allocated in the second swath to help people both pay back rent, and more importantly, if they've been evicted or had to leave and they owe back rent, we can help them pay off that back rent so then they're eligible to rent a new home to live in. And that's important. Infrastructure. I will tell you that the board approved the largest CIP in the history of Manatee County government with over $1.1 billion in infrastructure. This year alone, $374 million in road projects. The Public Works Department has seen in the year, I'll take credit for it, a 100% increase in output in a 50% faster rate. I was astounded to find that there were projects that were approved and funded 3 years ago that hadn't even moved. And if you've been out in Parrish, Erie Road, any of that kind of stuff, you're seeing sidewalks go in, you're seeing the roads accelerated, 44th, et cetera. Is my time up?
It's up.
Okay. I will just stay on this. Water taxi. Commissioner Van Osterbridge was like this. In 2013, there were 1,255 parking spaces in Holmes Beach, and in 2020, there were only 775. So we're going to move forward with a water taxi to help, along with MCAT, to move people from Bradenton and these areas out to the beaches where they don't need a car, and they can use our free trolley service. And with that, my time's up. Thank you.
I try to be polite like the Baptists do. They kind of just stand up and means you need to sit down, but no. Thank you so much, Dr. Hopes. I appreciate it because I do live out there in Parrish, and I was like, we got all these houses. I need some roads, some sidewalks. So please give them another round of applause, please. Next, we have Chief Scott Tyler from the Palmetto Police Department. Chief Tyler began his service with Palmetto Police Department in 1995. He has risen through the ranks at the department and has held virtually every position. He became Chief of Police in March of 2015. Chief Tyler is passionate in the community policing, and he believes in strong ties with the community. Among his many duties, Chief Tyler serves his community on the Hope Advisory Board, the Manatee County Bridging the Gap Advisory Board, the Manatee County Fair Board, chair of the Manatee County Technical College Law Enforcement Academy, and also chair of the North River Prevention Partners Advisory Board, and is an instructor at the Manatee Technical College Police Academy. I like to see that they're doing their jobs, but they're also connecting themselves to the community. So that's always very impressive to me. Please welcome Chief Scott Tyler. Thank you so much. You gonna stay on time?
I am.
No.
Just keep me on track.
I'll stand up for you.
Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me to be here. And so when I was looking at the topics for today's discussion, especially looking at inflation, I kind of thought, well, I can try to relate crime data to inflation, but there's really no concrete or scientific way to do that. But you know, I got thinking about how inflation impacts the Palmetto Police Department and impacts the way of life in Palmetto and the way of life for my officers. And I think we can all agree, my law enforcement partners, one of the things that we struggle with over the past couple of years has been recruitment and retention of police officers. You know, here in Manatee County, our wage scale is a little less than it is to the north of us and over towards Orlando. And I can tell you, probably over the past 8 years at the Palmetto Police Department, we've had quite a bit of turnover. And the officers are telling us as they leave, it's like, we like it here, but, you know, first of all, it's a smaller agency, doesn't quite have the opportunities that, say, Tampa Police Department or Orlando Police Department might offer. But also, it's just about money. And a lot of our officers can leave the Palmetto Police Department with all that training and experience that they've gotten there, and they can go to a neighboring agency. They don't really even have to move their families and make sometimes $12,000 more a year. And so one of the things I started doing is I started talking to the men and women that I have working for me and looking at what is really the issue. And it does go back to inflation. Maybe inflation has been the buzzword for the past couple of years. I was just looking at some figures, and Dr. Hope's covered this too. This year, we're up over 7% inflation. But that's all about getting places to live, you know, paying for gas, paying for food, paying for all the things that you want for your kids. And, you know, I think that Manatee County has had some challenges with that. So I can tell you, you know, both on the county level and in the city of Palmetto itself, our city commission has heard that loud and clear. And they are working very hard in prioritizing affordable housing within the city. I don't want to speak for our commissioners or our mayor, but I think that you're going to see some exciting things coming from the city of Palmetto too over the next couple of months, some announcements and some projects that we want. But the whole thing is our teachers, our firefighters, our police officers, our paramedics, we want them, we raise them, we want them to stay here. We need them in the community. We need that experience base in our community. And right now we're struggling competing with other communities and losing them to that. When I of course, and unfortunately with my turnover, I've had to do a lot of recruiting over the past couple of years. And I do that especially with my connection with our local police academy. I get a lot of young officers out of the academy. And, you know, when I talk to them about looking for a job, whether it's at Palmetto, Manatee County, the city of Bradenton, you know, one of the things I talk to them about is, you know, your cost of living, your standard of living, of course, your benefits, your pension. And, you know, we're all struggling here in Manatee County to make us more attractive to retain those essential workers. You know, I go back when I started speaking to you, it's hard to develop a direct nexus between the economy and crime. Although presumably when times are tough, when we have high inflation, when the value of the dollar is lower, people that are already struggling are struggling more, there probably is a nexus with crime. Now I can tell you in 2020, when we're kind of really at the height of the pandemic and going into very early 2021, we had a pretty large crime increase in the city of Palmetto. And that was largely property crime. Luckily, I hope that was wood. Luckily, our violent crime has continued to go down or has continued to stay the same, which we'll take every day. But the property crime, the crimes of opportunity, it did go up dramatically. Now in 2021, we saw a dramatic decrease and almost kind of canceled out that increase. And so, you know, here again, I can't really tell you that the reason inflation, we started seeing inflation kind of starting to spike mid last year, late last year. I can't really tell you it's driving crime, but I can tell you, and property crime remains down, but we're seeing more crime of opportunity, if you will. So it used to be when we had stolen cars in Palmetto, 7 square miles, about 13,000 people, I'd run about 10, maybe 12 stolen vehicles. That's cars, trailers, motorcycles a year. We started to see that go up, but when I looked at it, they were kind of thefts where somebody in the family took the car without permission or something like that. It wasn't where it was really a whodunit, who took the car. But now I'm starting to see crimes like that. I'm starting to see, it used to be where we had a burglary spree, it was pretty easy for us to figure out likely who was doing it. And generally we were able to you know, arrest that person and the burglary spree stops. But now more and more we're getting, again, those whodunits with burglary. And I'm just going to put my pitch in there, and I think the sheriff will agree with this. Lock your cars, please. Most of my burglaries are still from unlocked cars, and that's been going on for a couple of years. So you can help white crime out in Palmetto. If you just, when you come to Palmetto, lock your car. And please, don't leave your gun on the seat. And we laugh, but we have that problem too. So, you know, I think that probably the economy is driving people to do things that they wouldn't normally do. One of the things that we are seeing around Palmetto and certainly across the country is certainly a spike in scams, and especially the internet scam. It's not just the driveway scam where the people come around in April when the folks are ready to leave the mobile home park and go north. It's not the phone solicitor anymore. It's the internet scam. And we're seeing them. They're targeting all age groups. They have a wide variety of strategies that they use. But, again, I'm seeing that, and I think that that is also a function of, people being home, people being desperate, people looking for easy opportunities to make money. And what's the old saying? If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Another thing that we've seen an increase in Palmetto is not necessarily a criminal problem. It's a social problem, and that is a problem of homelessness, addiction, and mental health. But unfortunately, we work hard in Manatee County to have systems and organizations in place to service the needs of those that are faced with homelessness or near homelessness or addictions. We do some great work. We have some great programs. But unfortunately, I think nationally, we don't do a very good job of addressing this. And when I look at issues of homelessness and especially mental health, a lot of that has everything to do with the economy. Whereas if you are in a very precarious personal situation where you're almost homeless, you're barely hanging on, you're one paycheck to the next, and the economy turns bad, or your buying power with that meager paycheck is decreased, more than likely you're going to be living out of your car. And we've seen more and more of that in Palmetto. Again, services are there, and when we look at homelessness, a lot of times it's a combination of that, mental health, and addictions. So, I think that definitely there's a correlation there. Another thing that, we wanted to talk about today is congestion. So I don't think I have to convince anybody here that we have a traffic problem, a congestion problem in Manatee County, but just go to Sarasota or Pinellas or Hillsborough, everybody has the same problem. The tremendous growth in Florida over the past, maybe even decade or so has truly contributed to that. But speaking about Palmetto, when there is a problem on the interstate or there is a problem elsewhere in Manatee County on a major corridor, it locks Palmetto up. Because, thinking about it, two of the four ways across the Manatee River are in the city of Palmetto. And when those back up, whether the problem's south of the river or east of the city, everybody's going across those bridges. So even when traffic's flowing pretty good, there's that sweet spot where you don't want to be on the roads crossing the bridges in the morning. But when we have a problem on the interstate, we're done. It's a challenge for us to respond to emergencies in the city when we have that gridlock. I'll occasionally, a couple of times a year, we'll look at response times to calls, and we'll try to identify if we have an issue. And the Palmetto Police Department continues to have a very good response time. We're usually in the 3-minute mark, and then there's like a 5 to 6 minute mark, but we're there pretty quickly. And the whole thing about getting around Palmetto is not 8th Avenue, it's 10th Avenue. But that's a secret. Don't tell anybody outside this room. So our officers know how to get around pretty well, but congestion is an issue. So just, I'll kind of finish up. Crime.
Go ahead.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry. So property crime, as I say, has kind of come down a little bit, but we still have the burglary problem. But the one thing I can say is, and I think it's a combination of pandemic and stressors out there, is domestic violence and just people not being civil to each other. And that's something that I think we can all breed into an effect. Can I arrest you for not being nice? No, but we need to be patient, we need to be kind, we need to look after each other and not let these stresses affect our relationship with our neighbors and with the people that we encounter every day. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much, Chief Tyler. Please give him another round of applause for all the work he does. Next, we will have our Manatee County Sheriff, Rick Wells. Sheriff Wells was sworn in as Sheriff of Manatee County January 3rd, 2017. He was Palmetto Police Department's police chief from 2010 to 2015. and spent 21 years at Florida Highway Patrol and was promoted to the rank of sergeant. He has spent over 37 years in law enforcement. Sheriff Wells was named the Manatee County Law Enforcement Officer of the Year in 1991, received the Manatee County Whitney Cassette Knudsen, wow. Award. We just talked about that. Now Visionary Award with 2012 and the NAACP Humanitarian Award in 2014 and Edgar H. Price Jr. Humanitarian Award in 2016. He has taught law enforcement to government, education, and community organizations throughout Florida and does a wonderful job at his leadership. Please welcome our Sheriff Rick Wells.
Thank you, Xavier. Thank you all for having me. That is the redneck version of Dr. Hope's resume, just so we can clarify the issues there. So it's always a pleasure to be here, and I really want to thank Xavier. And this is really one of the best talks that I give every year. I really enjoy coming here, and just because of the scenery. I mean, it's just beautiful over here. So, and you too. That's what I'm talking about, the scenery. So when we talk about inflation, we talk about crime, I will tell you this, and Scott Tyler pretty much nailed it. But criminals do not care what the economy's like. Criminals commit criminal acts when the economy is good and when the economy is poor. They know no difference. What we see are people in the community suffering. We see them trying to make it. But we don't see those that would normally not commit a crime start committing crimes because of inflation. So I cannot hook and connect those two issues. Good people that they may go and try to find services, whatever they can to help with the situation, but criminals don't care. I mean, when Dr. Hope was giving you the inflation numbers a couple of years ago when it was really good, they were still breaking into cars. They were still stealing at Dillard's and other places. I mean, it's just a way of life for some. So we don't see a correlation. We don't see that connection. What we will see during times of inflation, especially with gas, are elaborate trailers used to siphon and steal gas from convenience stores or gas stations, where I don't know if you've seen this before, but they will park that trailer over the pumps, where the gas is located, over the tanks, and they've got a mechanism in place and several tanks inside that trailer, and they'll siphon that gas out of the tanks. So we haven't had that here yet, knock on that same wood that Tyler was talking about, but I've already seen it happen in the Tampa Bay area. I saw it down up in Pasco County already, and also in Hillsborough County. So we've had those crimes before several years ago, where they, if they would just flip the script and do the right thing, they could probably do whatever they wanted, but they use all their knowledge to commit crime. So, we were very fortunate. Last year we were 8% down in crime. The men and women of the Manatee County Sheriff's Office work very, very hard. Very proud of them. They do all the hard work. I just talk, right? So they're the ones out there each and every day. During the pandemic, like our state attorney talked about, we couldn't change the way that we enforce the law. So and once again, the criminals didn't care about the pandemic. So we still had to do what was necessary to keep all the citizens safe, and that's what they did. And once again, I'm very proud of them. I will say that the biggest issue that we have outside of traffic, and I'll get into that, one of the biggest issues that we focus on now, more so than we ever did before 37 years ago, are the homeless. And I get complaints from people about homeless each and every day. A lot of times it comes through the commissioners, and because people are in areas that they're not supposed to be. But our approach has been different. We want to provide services. I have a deputy that's assigned to nothing but trying to help homeless population finding services. I have another deputy that will be starting to assist here in just a few more weeks. Our goal is to try to get them services. Now, some want it and some don't, but I don't want you to think for 1 minute that the only people that are homeless in Manatee County are addicted to drugs or alcohol. That's not the truth, y'all. We have families out here that are struggling. We have school-aged kids living with their parents in vehicles. It's a huge problem. And really, it's our job as a community to try to do what we can to assist. And I know the county commissioners are working on it. I know they have a workshop coming up. I mean, we're all wanting to do whatever we can to help them. We purchased 10 hotbeds at the Salvation Army where when we come in contact with a homeless person that wants to get off the streets, wants some help, we have a place to put them for a while, but it's not enough. We need more. And if you don't hear anything I say today, we need to do more to help those that are struggling out here in our community that are homeless. And that really is something that's very dear to me and to the deputies that work with them each and every day. And I think we can do more. I really do. And hopefully we'll get to a point where we have enough services available to help them. But we also have some that are right on the brink of being homeless, and we've already talked about it. You know that rent is higher than it's ever been before, and we need to try to somehow have a system in place where we can help those that are struggling with rent so they don't become homeless. So that's been a huge goal for us at the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, is to do what we can. And we get a lot of complaints about them being on private property. Well, we can't just kick someone off of private property. We have to find the property owner, and then we have to get the permission for us to go on the property and help those people and get them out of there. And like I said, sometimes they're ready. They want to go and start a new life and get some help. And sometimes we don't have the services available to do that. So we'll continue to work on that. As far as traffic sucks. That's been very difficult at times for, especially this time of year. I don't know, I'm an old-time Manatee County resident, and you could tell back in the 70s and 80s when the northern residents came here, right, and when they left, you could tell. Can't tell anymore. So it does affect us on our non-emergency response times. I was looking at it just the other day. It's added about 2 to 3 to 5 minutes at times when we're responding to a non-emergency call. Luckily, when it's an emergency, we can get through. It's still more difficult. It still slows us up because you can only go around, so many people depending on what road we're on. But it's just a sign of the times, ladies and gentlemen. It's Manatee County. We are booming in population. I don't see that going away anytime soon. This is who we are as a community now, and people want to be here. And traffic is going to be an issue. And we continue to see the county commissioners working on adding new roadways and expanding, and FDOT, trying to widen lanes on the interstate in different places. So my wife yells at me every time we go somewhere, because all I do is complain about the traffic, and she's like, "What are you going to do about it?" So I get it. So, but with that becomes an issue for us because we get a lot of traffic complaints. There's a lot of aggressive drivers out here. People are impatient. A lot of speeders, and I'm sure right now you can probably think about a vehicle that goes through your community. So we continue to get those calls as well. And I've talked about this before, but the Florida Highway Patrol, they're just trying to keep up with the increase in traffic crashes. So they don't have the time to go out and do the proactive traffic enforcement that we used to do back 30 years ago. So we're trying to pick up that slack. I'm adding more deputies to the traffic unit as well. And there's no shortfall. There's enough to go around. So that continues to be something that we have to address. I know you're not getting up because they went like 5 minutes over their time. So, oh, you all right? Okay, all right.
I'm over here.
I mean, Dr. Host was reading scripture. So I just want to kind of, I'll end by this. It's important that we all are involved in our communities. If there's one thing that I miss nowadays is what we don't have a connection with our neighbors like we used to when we were growing up. So people don't know when a car doesn't belong in the neighbor's driveway because they never pay attention to their neighbor. They don't ever talk to them, right? So it's very important that we just keep an eye out for what we're responsible for, just our little area of the county. Just pay attention to what's going on. And when you see something that you don't believe is good or it doesn't fit there, call us. Even if you don't know, we'll check it out. We'll make a determination on whether that belongs there or not. But if we could just get more involved in our neighborhoods like we used to back in the day, I think it would make a huge difference. So God bless y'all. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rick. My goodness. Thank you all to all of the speakers. I appreciate it. Now it's time for questions. If you would like to ask a question, please go ahead and go to the microphone for me. Please make sure your questions are clear and concise. Please do not elaborate. I'm trying to keep you guys on time, so just ask your question. Also, let me know who the question is for. Any of our panelists, if you feel you have the need to answer the question or you can, please do. Yes.
Hi, this question is for Dr. Hopes. You talked about the ferry, the boat to the island. Where is it going to pick up here in Bradenton?
The initial plan is the city dock. That's,
The public dock. The public dock in front of Riverdance?
yes. Oh, no, I don't know. Is that where?
That's a day dock. It's a public dock, right? In front of Riverdance.
Whichever one the mayor committed to.
Okay, I think the only public dock I can think of is the one that's in front of Riverdance.
It's the day dock. It's the
Day dock, right.
the city's day dock.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Jane Filesticker, and I am a member. And I have a question that probably is most appropriately addressed to Sheriff Wells. I live out east, just off of State Road 70, and I've noticed that there has been a tremendous increase in not just severe car accidents, but fatal accidents. And I'm wondering, with the increased population in that area, what your plans are to address the danger out there.
Thank you, Jane.
So we work most of the county roadways. So anything that's involved, is it state roads? What road are you talking about specifically? Yeah, so State Road 64. So we try to go out there and pick up the slack for FHP. And so we know they can't get out there as much as they. So we do work speed out there. We do work details with my ag unit and my Cassidy that come up and work 70 and 64, and then deputies, my traffic unit, they work it as well. So we try to work in conjunction with FHP, and sometimes they just can't get out there, so we have to pick it up. So all we can do is to continue to show presence. That's the, but I'll tell you that, people won't slow down. All right, we can be out there for an hour. I can be out there for 5 days in a row. As soon as we're not there, they just pick right back up. But we'll continue to do our part and write and write citations to those that are guilty for excessive speed. But that is your biggest issue out there. Those crashes are being caused primarily by speed and not paying attention.
So really quick, my question would be for, how is our juvenile crime prosecution wise, and how are we dealing with juvenile crime? And this is for you, Chief Tyler, because I live north of the river. What about those accidents that stop me from getting where I need to go on time, like 7th Street and 17th Street? I see a lot of fatal accidents on that part of the North River. So what are we doing to combat that? Come on down.
So it's probably no surprise to anybody that traverses Palmetto that our biggest concentration of traffic crashes is along 8th Avenue. It's along 8th Avenue south, right north of the Green Bridge when you first come into the city, and then what you're talking about up north by Holy Cross Church, right down to 17th Street and going towards the high school in Lincoln. So just as much as we can between calls of service, all of my officers are out there, we call them traffic patrol requests, But, first of all, we're looking at data about where our traffic crashes are most often occurring. And then, as we have complaints in the community, we have those officers out there trying to do some proactive traffic enforcement. Again, with my turnover, I've have the staffing numbers. I just don't have the officers to put in, but I'm also going to be creating a dedicated traffic unit. And we also are trying to leverage technology for crash investigations. We're buying some traffic crash mapping software. But, the whole thing is we want to prevent the crash if we possibly can. So I guess my long-winded answer is kind of similar to the sheriff. We're just devoting as many resources as we can to traffic enforcement. But I echo what he says. Even in a neighborhood, we can write a ticket to somebody. We're not out there and that same person's speeding again. But we're going to keep at it.
Thank you so much. Mr. Brodsky, my juvenile.
So juvenile offenses, I think, has been a tricky area. And I think this past session through the Florida Sheriff's Association, there was a big effort to kind of address some of the issues that was occurring with juveniles. Juveniles under current Florida law, they can currently only be held in detention for 21 days and under some certain circumstances for some additional time. But what we were seeing is some of our youth that were committing some serious offenses were getting out of custody within 3 weeks and then reoffending. So that's something that through the Florida legislature, through the initiative of the Florida Sheriff's Association, has been addressed through legislation this year. But the balance with juveniles is we want to identify those youth that we can rehabilitate. The whole purpose of the juvenile system is to rehabilitate our youth. We want to be able to turn those lives around. And that's something I'm committed to as a prosecutor and as a state attorney here, is identifying those youth that we can rehabilitate. We want to turn those lives around. We want them to have a successful and a very productive life. Unfortunately, we do have some youth that are committing some serious crimes. And over the last year, I'd say in our region, unfortunately, we have seen some youth that have committed some serious crimes, some homicides and some very serious offenses. And those youth we're going to be very aggressively prosecuting. And so overall, juvenile delinquency in the state of Florida has gone down. But we have seen some youth that have been able to get out of custody because of the current system that's in place. And that's something that the legislature addressed this year. So I think that that'll improve as well.
Hello, my name is Kay White. Everyone's talked, each of you have talked about homelessness. A number of referenced the price of housing in the area. What is the definition in our area of affordable housing? What is the dollar that we're talking about for affordable housing?
He knows it, Tim.
There are a number of definitions, but the federal government tends to use a percent of monthly income spent on housing, and it should be like around less than 30%. And now you see some people, first responders, teachers, that are looking at 50%, and that's unaffordable. And I'll tell you, the reason why I just smile is because we have to change the number all the time. Because as pricing goes up, our programs have to get adjusted. I think we've taken it to the board twice in the past year to raise the county's contribution to help people with down payments and things like that, because the prices just keep going up, just constantly.
Hi. Two questions, actually, and one of them you guys won't be able to answer because no one's here from the school board, but wondering if you've ever reached out to them. Open choice busing stops next school year, which will increase traffic, I'm guessing, tremendously, because parents will not have to take their kids to the school that they open choice for. No more buses will do that. So have you considered that as a traffic plan to address? And for the home issue, have you guys thought about bridge loans? The county actually giving bridge loans to developers to build affordable housing through a bridge loan.
We not only have done like bridge loans, we've actually done mortgages.
Yeah, but
and
to the homeowner, to developers though, the guys actually building, doing a bridge loan.
We do too. The reason why I'm smiling again, because I found that I was being asked to sign a satisfaction of mortgage for a loan to a developer, and we didn't get the money the developer got the money and kept it in their bank account. And you can thank Glenn Jim Lean for bringing that to my attention, because boy, it was right on my radar. But no, we have a variety of programs for bridge financing, for mortgages for people to buy, affordable homes, for developers. There's no shortage of new programs that I think we're going to be coming up with that are rather innovative to do that. All I got to say is, at least while I'm the county administrator and while I have this board, if we loan you money to build a home, I'm not satisfying your mortgage unless we actually get the money back. Okay, I'm looking out for the taxpayers, right? Oh, I'll talk about school buses.
Okay, if you guys want to make this really quick, you make this really, come on.
I was just going to say that the superintendent, brought the ending transportation for school choice, which are not required to. So we're looking at how we might be able to help out with that through our transit system, because we have capacity. But I can tell you the school district has had a tough time keeping up, because we're all competing for bus drivers, our transit operators. So we're looking at how we can do that, because I agree with you. That means every kid whose parent is going to drive them. I don't think the school district was looking at the traffic problem so much as they were trying to focus on their busing problem.
Good afternoon. Just a quick question about traffic. I live here in Manatee County and love Manatee County, by the way. But what strategies have been considered, and what strategies are you looking at to solve the problem of, like, the red light issue at 301 and 64? When I come back from shopping at Detweiler's and Palmetto, going east on 64, and I can't make that turn when my light comes up because people are parked in the middle of the intersection.
Well, you can't know.
No fighting,
that is something that BPD, often you'll see an officer out there writing citations and having to deal with that. Once again, it's a violation of the law. People continue to do it. They do it at more than that location. So I don't know from an engineer type perspective if we could do something with the light, but that is, you're talking about the one in the city, correct? Yeah. But I know that they work enforcement out there quite often, because I come that way every day, and like you, I get irritated because I can't get through the light, but they're there as much as they can be.
You may not like the answer, but what FDOT has learned is what Europeans have known for a long time. You can slow traffic down, reduce accidents, and you can make it easier to turn if you have roundabouts. Okay, so you're seeing more roundabouts. We're designing. I will tell you, at Moccasin Wallow and 301, it's going to be a big ass roundabout. Okay, it's going to be a big roundabout. All right. Now, I will tell you, some of you know I had an office in Dublin, Ireland, and so for every month for 3 years I was over there, I had no problem going around the roundabouts, clockwise. It's when I came back to Miami and I had to go around the roundabouts counterclockwise, I was acting like I was drunk, so.
I always go the wrong way. I don't know what I'm doing with those things. Okay, thank you so much to our speakers. I appreciate it so much. A round of applause for Ed Brodsky, State Attorney, our 12th Judicial Circuit Court, Dr. Hopes, our Manatee County Administrator, Chief Scott Tyler, Palmetto Police Chief, and our Manatee County Sheriff, Rick Wells. Thank you all so much for attending the luncheon. Really, really, really important. Understand the growth, understand the traffic, be patient. I just became president of an organization. We actually have 22 charter applications out. From north to, we're not going down to Miami, but we have them out. But that's how much we're growing here in Florida. Thank you to our board of directors and our program committee. Our next luncheon will be held on April 21st. We will have Congressman Vern Buchanan. He will be giving his legislative update, and you will be be able to ask him any type of questions that you would like. We invite you to become a corporate, nonprofit, or individual member. Remember, we do have our scholarship luncheon in November, so if you're interested, raise your hand. Scholarship person, can you raise your hand? That is our scholarship person, so if you want to donate your $10,000, she will be the person to take it. Members and guests, if you know someone that might be interested in the upcoming topic, please invite them as your guest. Also, thank you so much again to our speakers. Tanya, thank you. Pier 22 providers, complimentary valet parking for our luncheon. Thanks. We thank you for all the media. Charles Clapsaddle, please give him a round of applause. I appreciate you. This is Xavier Bailey, your president. Have a great day.